I am sure you must have read. There was a very, very simple, silly and the most agonizing incident in West Bengal. Day before yesterday it has happened. Have you read about a small child who was supposed to be taken to a particular hospital? And no, I will give a very, very simple example. I mean, it is a live example. The patient is to be taken by an ambulance, and the staff said, you must go and get permission from the doctor concerned. And the people went to him, and he was sleeping, and when they woke him up, he got angry, and he indulged in some kind of physical assault, etc., etc. In the process, the girl died. That is what father tells the press. I mean, we have situations like this which clearly indicate the kind of disrespect, the kind of indifference of an individual, which ultimately leads to the loss of life. It is such a simple matter, giving a kind of procedural clearance or whatever that is required. I am giving the example only to indicate the standards and prescriptive nature is very clear now. We have to achieve that goal. But how do we make those standards to really happen? Similarly, if you look into almost all these aspects of public health, now we have reached a stage where a great and inexplicable dilemma. I hope you remember in one of the medical negligence sessions I mentioned, there is a very difficult and very significant paradox what we are experiencing. That is, the kind of standards, the kind of nature of treatment, the quality of care that has gone up, etc., is phenomenal when it comes to private sector of healthcare. When it comes to the public healthcare, I am not only talking about the budget, I am talking about the kind of facilities available. The major percentage of the population, they approach public health, where there is no healthcare facility, literally. Very minuscule percentage of people, they approach private healthcare because affordability is not a problem for them. In other words, the accessibility and affordability question is becoming such a complex web in this country. We are not very sure in what way we need to address that system. That is what even Dr. Amartya Sen says. I understand your healthcare quality has gone up like anything, but the issue to be posed is how many people will be able to avail that kind of care, and what is the role of the state. Please remember, when we talk about human rights debate, there are certain things we know that human rights are not to be construed as absolute in nature, because there can be a circumstance, etc., etc. But when it comes to health, you cannot find exceptions. Please remember, health is something which is so much foundational in nature. Unless the governance is subjected to strict implementational audit, I do not think health as a human right will have any meaning. Now people started realizing, if on one hand economic prosperity requires non-governmental process, that is market economy is to zoom, and on the other hand, if the public institutions are not strengthened, if the state does not take care about the public centers, naturally large majority of people, they are not in a position to avail the services of the private. In such a case, economic affordability on the individual to avail adequate care is the issue which requires to be. And naturally, we need to find ways and means to see in what way the standard that can be. In the entire debate in India, no doubt people started realizing and people started raising voices about this particular. But when it comes to what do we do? See, after all, the most important question as an individual which comes to our mind is, yes, I have a human right. That is what you say. You give a lecture. But I know in practice that is not there. What do I do? Should there be a redressal mechanism for me? If so, what is that redressal? In fact, that is the reason why if you look into National Human Rights Commission website, you have to visit. National Human Rights Commission website very clearly indicates the kind of focus that they are giving in terms of implementation of right to health as a human right. What needs to be done? What are the various coordinated approaches that are to be initiated in order to fulfill health as a human right? That is with regard to a kind of, you inform the government, you inform the state, you take the state minister into confidence and see that the particular policy is put into practice in a particular way. That attempt is always there, it is going on, because people now started realizing that health needs to be taken note of. But on the other hand, judicial response is equally important. I am not saying that for everything judicial response is the anathema in a country like ours. But at the same time, if a person wants to redress his grievance, that is with regard to health as a human right, he or she should be able to approach the court, and the court should be able to constructively look into the debate and decide if the state does not fulfill what the state is expected to do, etc., etc. In India, I must tell you very frankly, I do not think there is a comprehensive judicial appreciation about health as a human right. Even now, the approach is more with regard to, if you look into health care, they look into as a treatment oriented, as a curative perspective, but I do not think the judicial response has been on preventive and promotive aspect. Am I communicating when I say this? I hope, yeah. Because the reason is, I want you to really understand, when we talk about a treatment or curative aspect, you know what the government, what the judge does? The judge focuses on the erring doctor. I hope I am communicating. If you focus on the curative aspect, the judge focuses on the establishment, the erring doctor, etc., etc., in a very minuscule manner, the judicial response. If it is a preventive or promotive aspect, the perspective is much larger, where the focus ought not to be on the individual doctor, but on the system, on the governance. That is where we do not find judicial constructive response. You know why? We do not find that kind of response from judiciary. You know why? I will tell you the reason. The reason is that, the moment judiciary touches that, it opens a Pandora's box. The moment the Pandora's box is opened, I do not think either judiciary or state will be able to sustain, because people will take on. The moment you open the gate, floodgates are opened, and people know state is not going to function. My dear friends, you will be surprised to know, one person in the political arena, the person has shown tremendous,
Is that so consciously thought of, deliberately mulled over prior to a judicial response? If that is so, how neutral is a judicial response, which is what it is? I mean, like, at least my impression is a judicial response is kind of neutral. It's not supposed to swing one way or another and be swung by other factors and things like that.
Correct. Right? That's a very good question.
Thank you.
In fact, the observation what I made just now, so far as my interpretation goes, that is inferential in nature, inferential from the judicial decisions. But please remember, unless the judiciary comes and counters my inference, I take it for granted that's what you had predisposed of, that you had contemplated. You know that. It is not that you have not contemplated. I will give a simple example. Please look into it. The example is very, very fundamental to me. In fact, it is not here. In law commission seminars, with Supreme Court judges, with High Court judges, with judicial academies, the debate I did face. I may not be able to get a particular judge to come on to say, no, Jogara, this is what I thought, and therefore no, I do not think. The very fact that you do not address me, silence speaks volumes. That is my understanding. That is what I told them. I will give an example. See, one case which I told you, that Sialda station, West Bengal, one person was about to enter into a train and he fell on the platform, received some head injury. He was taken to a hospital, there were no beds. Another hospital, no doctors. Another, less beds, too many patients. Then ultimately taken to a private hospital and accordingly filed a case, and Supreme Court gave a judgment, this, that, etc. I have read the judgment at least 100 times. I want to know what actually the Supreme Court wants to do. Supreme Court asked some gave notice to West Bengal, what are you doing? come on, file affidavit, this, that, everything. They said, this is what we are doing, this is what we propose to do, this is what we would want to do, this, that, etc. Then ultimately Supreme Court said, this is going to be a significant judgment, landmark judgment of this country. We are now declaring that health is a human right, excellent, this, that, etc. Gave him 25,000 rupees, go. What I am saying is the PIL litigation, the judicial response, I appreciate the votaries of the people when they filed a litigation. But please remember, the response the litigant wants, not in terms of money to the individual. No doubt it is necessary. That's not all. That is where they confuse the issue. The preventive and promotive is not to be viewed as something, no, he had committed a mistake, leave it like that. No, when it comes to governance, the issue is much larger. Then naturally you need to ask what actually you have done, what steps you have taken. I will give an example. There is a government hospital. I don't know whether you are aware, our own Bangalore, not now, 5 years ago, because a lot of private sector people came and modernized, etc. Burns ward of Victoria Hospital. I went there. I did lot of work because 6 or 7 years ago, I was asked to conduct a study on dowry deaths. See, Karnataka state, don't think that it is a place for retired people, so-called garden city, this, that. We are number 2 in India in killing wives. We are not. We are second to none, but except Delhi. Delhi is number 1. Delhi is number 1 for everything and anything. For anything, it's a capital, no, national capital. Consistently, 898 dowry deaths in a year. We were next, 863. We kill people. We kill systematically. And in Karnataka, the maximum number of dowry deaths come from Bangalore. 3 months after marriage, 6 months after marriage, 1 year after marriage, 5 years after marriage, mother of 2 children, pregnant mother, everybody we kill. Why? They don't pay money. Some study, etc., and they wanted evidence dying declaration aspect, etc. I went to the Burns ward. I visited, and I must tell you, disgusting. The kind of place, the kind of people. And I am telling you, I am not here to blame a person and forget and go. And that's not what I want to do. I want to evoke the public interest in the debate. That is the reason why I take the path of lecturing. Lecturing, in my opinion, is fundamental to evoke your inner conscience. That is the object. You might not have visited, but I can tell you my own experience. And you will be surprised to know, forget about health care. The system itself, the infrastructure itself makes it very clear the person one who is brought in will never go as alive. He or she is dead. No doctors, no this, no everything is. Then private sector has stepped in and they did some kind of thing, etc., etc. Now I can tell you very frankly, 30% improvement I find. Some kind of. You know why? You know why I am saying? The movement, please remember, we do not know. This is a major problem of the so-called educated elite. You know what is the problem? A burn case is always a medico-legal case. The moment you say medico-legal case, you have to go to the government hospital. Dowry death is a medico-legal case. You can't say that I will be in Sagar Apollo or Malya and I will get treatment. The police has to take pharma. So many things are there. In that way, the place where, now forget about affordability, unaffordable, that's a different matter. The kind of system that works in. Now we realize that 30% has improved and at least some livable, even in those last moments of that life. We know that because when we kill a woman, we will see to that the woman is 70% burnt. Not 30, 40, 70, which means almost roasted. Almost. She may die in 2 hours time or half a day time. That is the kind of situation. Why I am giving this example is, when we talk about health, no doubt healthcare facility is important. Please remember, without the implementable facility, health as a human right has no meaning. But what I am saying is, when we talk about health, this is the curative aspect. Please remember, this is a treatment oriented issue. Much larger issue is when we talk about a preventive and promotive.